can all agree that we probably want some sort of price on our website to avoid the tire kickers, the people just looking for cheap work. But what is the right way to do that? The right way to present your price? Today, we are making a tier list of all the different versions of pricing you can put on your website. And we're gonna start with the most common minimums, minimum prices. What are the pros and cons of putting a minimum price on your website? Well, the pros, getting those cheapskates right on out of there so you're not wasting time on calls with people that are only prepared to pay a quarter of your rates. That minimum gives people a taste, just a whiff of your pricing. You can use it to flex on existing clients when you increase your fees and you're like, you're below my minimum. I hope you know how fortunate you should feel. And when you start your own firm, you can prove to your mom that people actually pay you to do this stuff. Now, the cons of just having a minimum, me. Prep starts at $750, but I'll provide a specific estimate once I see your prior year tax return. A few moments later, client, so prep will cost me $750. Yep, good to move forward. No, but in my experience, this is what every client do. They anchor their expectations of the price to whatever you said the minimum would be. And the long-term effect of this, I actually think, over the long term, when you're bringing in new clients and they generally trend around the minimum just because you communicated that minimum, your entire client base, if you think of the fees that they pay you, it probably starts skewing toward the minimum, which is kind of the opposite of what we want, right? Like, wouldn't we rather it be skewing premium going the other way? But by only communicating the minimum, you collect minimums. And it's why I'm giving this approach a C. Isn't that great? But is it better than having no pricing at all? In fact, is there a legitimate argument to putting no pricing at all on the website? What are the pros and cons of this? A pro, I don't have to commit to anything in particular. Another pro, I don't have to get my partners to agree on anything. I actually think that's the story behind about 90% of firms that don't have pricing on their site. It could also be not agreeing on a price means I could just pull a client in at whatever price that I want and break the rules. Partners love to do that. I digress. Last pro is people come in with no expectations. So there's kind of nothing there to disappoint in a way, but on the con side, people have no expectations. That could work out for you in the positive, maybe you came in cheaper than they expected, but it'll probably more commonly work out for you in the negative, where you get through a whole long conversation and then you finally talk money and you're like, sorry, we're actually in entirely different universes. Now, when you don't have any price on your website, I suspect most people will either leave because they're annoyed because there's no transparency there. And if they don't leave, on average, a good percentage of them are going to be wanting stuff for cheaper than you can provide it for. So no pricing at all, I'm giving it a D, not good. And I would say worse than having a minimum price. But minimum price is still a C, let's do better. How about packages? The 3-tier thing. The presentation that says, I'm so cool and modern that I price myself like your software. Not your tax software, you just get an annual price for that in a ransom note. And not your accounting software, because they'll just tell you whatever the new price is for that every 6 months. But that side-by-side price comparison thing. What are the pros and cons of this? Well, the pros, it actually shows a range of prices, right? Not just the minimum, it shows the top end of the spectrum. And it makes it clear that what you do for people comes in various shapes, flavors, and sizes. Not all clients are made the same. The cons, it still shows my minimum. And I think people generally will still anchor to that minimum as long as you put it on there. Another risk with putting packages on there, depending on how detailed you get of exactly what's included at each package, you run the risk of anchoring a price to a specific scope. And doing this blows up your ability to do value pricing. If they think that every single time a client has these things, they pay this price, then you have no flexibility around what that price is. And regardless of how you feel about value pricing, we all do it, whether we admit to it or not. And there are situations where I just need to know certain things to know how to price the engagement. Did this client just fire a $150,000 a year controller and then come to my website and see, here's a package for $5,000 a month that'll do that guy's job. I just cut the cost of that in half. If that's the case, I wanna know that, not to just price gouge them, but because there's probably a scope conversation to be had. Why did that guy why was that a full-time job? If I'm taking it over, that's half the price. That's not a good place to start. I also wanna know, did this client just come from their Mima doing the work or a firm that's 10 times the size of ours? These are all things that will genuinely impact the pricing. But if I get too detailed about what my packages are and what the price for that type of work is, I can give up some of that control. And if you kind of neuter those packages and you don't put pricing on them at all, you're kind of just back to not having pricing, and that's just annoying. So while it isn't perfect, I'm gonna give packages a B. But what if we did a simpler version of this? didn't go as far as defining what you get at the various price ranges, but still define a price range. So like just a vanilla range in general. The pros of this, it's not just the bottom price, shows the top end of the spectrum too. It's a reflection of what people actually pay that work with you. I could potentially dazzle people with that big number at the top end of the range. And actually clients who may be more at the upper end of this spectrum, they're still gonna know that you can support them. That's one risk with minimum pricing, is if somebody comes along that's expecting to pay 4x whatever your minimum is, you may actually have a bunch of those people on your client list already, but if all they see is the minimum, they're gonna be like, "Is this firm too small potatoes for us?" With a range, you're able to encompass, a wider range of expectations. Now, the cons of a vanilla range, we still have a minimum. Like, people are still gonna anchor to the minimum as long as it's there. And it also doesn't give clients any information with which to contextualize where would I even land on that spectrum. Like, I don't really have any idea. So it's not perfect, but I'm just gonna give a vanilla range, I'm gonna give that a B. Now, what some people are moving to is just a fully transparent version of this, a calculator built directly into their website so people can calculate their own price. Now, is this a good idea or a bad idea? People have strong opinions on it. We recently ran through in a podcast episode the example of a firm that's using a price calculator on their website. It's actually a brand new firm that launched in the last year. They did 80 grand in their first year with this calculator front and center on their website. So, what are the pros and cons of a pricing calculator? The big pro, total transparency. And clients may actually reward you for this. Will this improve your conversion rate if they're like, finally, I can understand not only what my price is now, but what it's going to be down the road as well as my business evolves. Like, I can see, like, if my business is going to be this in 3 years, I can see right now what that's gonna cost. And that's actually really helpful. Now, it's also extremely simple and extremely delegatable. One of the last jobs to be delegated by firm owners and the big bosses are sales, particularly when they're doing these like arcane value pricing calculations that they can't really trust anybody else to do. Now, big cons come with a pricing calculator as well. The big one is you are anchoring a price to a scope, well and truly. There's like no way to do value pricing once you do this, but a bit of nuance here is you could use a pricing calculator for some of your services. So you're commoditizing like some of those in the way that you price them while reserving value pricing for other types of services. This is actually what I did in my firm. 1099s, for example. I'm not gonna value price your 1099s. In fact, we're doing such a huge volume of them, I just want to get them out the door. I will give you a pricing calculator if you're a current client. I'm not gonna do this for some one-off person coming into the firm, but if you're a current client, I will do your 1099s. Here's a basic pricing calculator. Let me know if you wanna do it, we'll get them done. I'm not gonna go through the work of value pricing every single one of those things. Now, for most of my engagements, I have that built into like, what is the monthly recurring in a larger engagement? But the reality was, we still had like one-off tax clients that we were doing, and it was not worth my effort to like value price all those things. So you could still do a pricing calculator for some of your stuff, and a value pricing calculator for other services. Just know, if you are standing up a pricing calculator, there's a risk that you're missing a little bit of juice on each of those engagements, where you could have priced some of them maybe higher than that calculator would have set the price. Now, you wanna hear my hot take here? I'm gonna score this one an A, because for all the upside that value pricing offers, you can still run a super profitable firm that is built around budgeted hours. I know, super not cool. Coldest take for new agey accounting firm owners who are like, time doesn't exist in my firm. It is but a construct I've left in the past. A lot of people are so scarred from like big firm time tracking that they will never touch timesheets or any aspect of time tracking again. And if you're that opinionated on it, that's fine. But you can still run a profitable firm around budgeted hours, and people can still track time in a way that isn't completely soul-sucking. It's what you do with that time that's the problem. If you charge on time instead of outcomes, yes, that's a problem. If team members' performance is only based on time, that's a big problem. So pricing calculators, I'm giving it an A because of the pros of transparency, of how it helps you delegate pricing conversations. Disagree in the comments, okay? Fight me. Now, I put a call out on social media to see what people thought here, get their opinions. And here was actually a really cool one I didn't have on my radar. Just showing examples from your current client base. This is from a firm called Full Send Finance. Take a look at this. A few live recurring pricing examples. You got the industry, technology, services provided, technical accounting, financial reporting, complexity, 3 out of 5, 9 employees, 1.8 million in revenue. They're paying $2,500 a month. You scroll down, we got a bunch of different combinations of factors here and what price that results in. And the pros of this to me is it's super clear. It is real life examples. And clients can actually see themselves in these examples. They're like, oh yeah, I'm kind of a combination of this and that kind of gives me a rough range of maybe what I ought to expect. And we're not only communicating pricing here, we're actually communicating what the ideal client profile is. I'm not gonna put like the phlebotomist on here if I don't wanna work with more phlebotomists. This is gonna be a snapshot of my favorite clients, the type of engagements that I wanna get more of, and just communicating what those companies look like is a bit of social proof to say other companies like you work with us and here's what the engagement looks like. We're giving them a peek behind the curtain without divulging all the details. Now, if there's a con here, are you maybe missing out on some value pricing opportunities? If there's a company that comes along and they're like, oh, this is totally like me, so my pricing should be just like this person. I don't know. So some people may do that, but to a degree, a client also ought to know like not every situation is the same, but if there is a con, I'd say it's maybe that. Now, I'm putting this one in S tier, and frankly, the only other S tier I can come up with. I love it just because it's just so dumb and simple. What if we just put like the median price on the website? Probably not the average, because I think the average can be skewed by if you got a whole bunch of legacy clients that like aren't paying very much. What if we presented something like the median? Like the pros to me, it's not the minimum, so people aren't anchoring in a number that you don't like. It's also not a range, which still includes a minimum and suffers from the same problem. It's kind of sort of an average. It's a number that I ought to be happier with than the median. It's simple, and it still gives me the flexibility to value price. It's not necessarily anchoring me in that. Now, if there's cons to just using this, it's not as clear to clients that maybe I offer various different options. Maybe it gives the false impression there that everybody pays this price when it actually could be a pretty big spectrum. But I'm putting this one in the S tier because of its simplicity. And sometimes you just gotta like throw out all the big complex stuff and just say, this is the general ballpark, but let's talk about it. And I think that's why I like this one. Now, if I'm building something out for my firm tomorrow, it's probably gonna be a combination of these two S tier options. I probably lead with like, here's kind of the median pricing you should expect. I probably don't call it median, I probably call it something else. But then I follow that on with examples from different industries, different clients that we love working with. Like a redacted example of like, here's the client, specifically like the type of client that you want to find more of, what they're paying. And then it not only communicates expectations, but attracts more clients like those ones that you're highlighting. It's gonna go a long ways to making it feel like this firm could be the home for them. And another great way we can help them visualize the client experience is actually show it to them, like visually. Your portal, does it look modern? Does it look like all the other apps that business uses? Or are you just yet another Codgerly accountant? Oh.
Magic.
Oh my gosh, start the music.
Hi there, I'm Iris Charmcaster.
This is an ad read from Client Hub.
Did somebody say modern client experience?
Yes, I did. I said how on your website you can show off how modern your client portal is.
Like this? Conversations on the left, find tasks in the middle, and links to all the apps your client uses on the right.
All in one place, that is nice. What if my client owns a business? Or like several businesses?
It's as easy as switching between client profiles, over on the left here.
That's pretty easy. And mobile?
Same thing on mobile. You can flip between companies here too.
So I can take some screenshots of all this, use it to help my clients like visualize what working with me looks like, put it on my website.
Yep, because it's a portal your clients will actually enjoy using. It's so good, it feels like magic.
Okay. Thanks for that, Charm Blaster. Check out the link in the video description to learn more. Any types of pricing presentation I missed here? What do you think is the best? On the pod, we recently ran through how to develop a comparison of services table. Kind of like you see on software websites to compare what your firm does to other services that clients bring up. Bench, QuickBooks Live, bookkeeping, TurboTax, that sort of thing. We've made a table that you can swipe. I'll link that episode below to give your team, even more confidence than ever the next time you are talking pricing.